From the nation's capital, Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. A weekly discussion about the federal issues most important to Nevada. And now, from Washington, D.C., here's Marilee Joyce.
Well, good day to you. I'm Marilee Joyce, and this is Eye on Washington. It's the only statewide Nevada news program produced in Washington, D.C. Every week, Eye on Washington takes you straight to Capitol Hill for a discussion with Nevada's delegation and other leaders about the federal matters that matter to you. Today's topic, fiscal irresponsibility. We'll find out why one Nevada U.S. congressman says it's urgent that the federal government put a brake on overspending. And he is my guest today, of course, and the author of some legislation about some stuff about that. And he is Nevada U.S. Congressman Joe Heck. Thanks for being here again.
Thanks, Marilee. Good to be with you.
Good to be seeing you. He says Nevadans have to be responsible with their budget and finances, so why shouldn't Congress have to do the same? And today on Eye on Washington, we'll tell you about my guest's efforts to restore fiscal sanity in government and put our nation on a sustainable path. We'll get his take on the burgeoning national debt and what he says needs to be done, and we'll find out why he thinks fears of economic uncertainty is crippling economic growth. In order to save our children and grandchildren from a fiscal crisis, we must reduce spending and address the major drivers of our debt. That's what it says on the budget issues page of the congressman's website. Since coming to the Hill in 2011, the congressman says his focus has been to reduce the annual deficit, eliminate governmental big spending by banning earmarks, and to help implement a balanced budget. In 1974, the Budget Control Act was signed into law. It said Congress was to annually adopt a budget resolution which would set the spending limits for the federal government. Since coming to Congress, my guest has twice voted for budget resolutions that he says would put the country on a sustainable fiscal path and address the major causes of debt while preserving and protecting critical safety net programs. Congressman, do you think the authors and the pro-voters of that Budget Control Act, do you think they envisioned what it would be like 40 years later?
I don't think so. When you look at what's happened over the last several years without getting a budget passed and having run government on continuing resolutions, I don't think back in 1974 they really thought about what might happen down the road. And that's the problem. We've now been without a budget for almost 4 years. And while the House has passed a budget each of the last 2 years, we've been unable to get that budget through the Senate and get one signed by the president. And so we continue to have this runaway spending because we don't know how much money we can spend without having a budget.
You know, I hear folks from both sides of the aisle saying that Washington has a spending problem. Why isn't there, I hear it from you, why isn't there more urgency on the Hill to address something that so many say is a major problem, if not one of the major problems today?
Well, I think part of it is because while many of us are saying there is a spending problem, there's also a big group that are saying, well, it's not a spending problem, it's a revenue problem, we just need more money. Well, we can get more money, but all you're going to do is spend it. And then you're going to come back and say we need more money. And so we've got to come around this idea that, look, as the president has said, we need a balanced approach. I would argue that we just need a balanced budget. But if we're going to go with a balanced approach, we've already increased revenue with the bill that was passed on January 1st that reset the tax brackets. Now it's time to come to the spending side of the table and say we've got to bring down the amount of money that we continue to spend in government. Otherwise, those two lines of spending and revenue are going to continue to grow further and further apart.
You say that if we could just have a balanced budget, that's going to solve a lot of ills. Will you, let's back up a minute because we hear the word balanced budget, and people back home in Nevada, maybe they don't quite understand what that means or why that's important. What's a balanced budget and why is that so important?
Well, sure. Well, it's just like those folks that are sitting at home around their kitchen table. They're going to look at how much money they're bringing in and what their bills total. And the goal is to get those two things to balance. Look, even the state of Nevada has a balanced budget requirement. They can't spend more money than the state takes in. And so why shouldn't that be the same thing here in Washington, D.C.? We can't say we expect to take in $2.4 trillion, but we're going to spend $3.5 trillion. And that's what we've done just about each of the last 4 years, accumulating another $1 trillion in deficit spending every year to the point where we've added almost $6 trillion to our debt over the past 4 years.
You hear a lot too about, oh no, if you cut funding, you're going to hurt entitlements, you're going to take away critical safety nets, and yet you've said that there is a way to address the major drivers of government debt that still provides for health, retirement, security of our seniors, etc.
Sure. Well, we didn't get here overnight, and certainly it's not about casting blame. I mean, both parties have been at fault over the last couple of decades in getting to where we are today. And so since we didn't get here overnight, you can't say, okay, we're going to cut spending so drastically, so quickly, that we expect to get out of this problem overnight. But you can make incremental reductions in spending while hopefully putting forth pro-growth policies that put more people back to work and have more economic growth, which will generate more revenue, and then see over time that those two lines will come back together where we're not spending more than we're taking in. And that's the approach that I would support. And there's plenty of plans out there. We're not starting from scratch. There was a Simpson-Bowles plan that said one of the things could be to just reset baseline spending to 2008 levels, which would cut $1.2 trillion over 10 years. There was the Domenici-Rivlin plan, or even Senator Coburn has his Back in the Black plan, which certainly is more aggressive, cutting $9 trillion over 10 years. But there are points out there where, while we may not agree 100% with every part of each plan, we can go in and pick certain things that I'm sure both parties can agree are reasonable ways to try to control our spending.
We're running out of time in this segment. I want to quickly get to this. I found an example of your effort here. In the last Congress, you introduced a bill called Restoring America's Faith and Trust Act, and you said at the time it would, quote, restore America's faith and trust in the economy. It didn't pass, but you believe that idea is still a really good one.
I do, because what that was, part of that bill was to reset our baseline to budget levels at that point in 2006. It also looked at selling off surplus government property to try to bring revenue back into the Treasury, and some other measures that would help us increase revenue and decrease spending simultaneously over time that would help us control our budget.
You going to reintroduce it?
We're not sure, because there are other plans that are already being floated, and so we're taking a look, we're reassessing it and see where we may go.
All righty. And right after this, you owe the government $50,000, and he'd like to see that bill greatly reduced. That's right after this.
You're watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, brought to you by the National Mining Association, Caesars Entertainment, NV Energy, the LVCVA, the Las Vegas Sands Corporation, Western Lithium Corporation, the Nevada Mining Association, Station Casinos, the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, and Skyline Restaurant and Casino.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce is Nevada's top source of federal news on television and on radio. But if you want even more Nevada-focused news from Washington, you need to subscribe to our Nevada's Washington Watch newsletter. Nevada's Washington Watch is the only publication that links Nevadans to Capitol Hill. Like our Eye on Washington program, Nevada's Washington Watch keeps you in the know on all the top federal issues that impact you, your family, and your business. Subscribe today at joycecommunications.com. That's joycecommunications.com.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
What is HOPE? It's a community's commitment to stopping violence against women and children. The Shade Tree Shelter continues to keep its doors and hearts open 24 hours a day to offer help, healing, and hope to women and families in crisis. For more information, call 385-0072 or visit www.shadetree.org. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can help save lives.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of my guest's ideas on how to help strengthen the economy by bringing some fiscal responsibility to our government. He is my guest today, Nevada U.S. Congressman Joe Hack. Did you know that you owe Uncle Sam $50,000? So does your spouse, and so do each of your children? Well, that's according to a statement my guest, the congressman, put out following news toward the end of last Congress that the national debt had passed $16 trillion. At the time, the Congressional Budget Office reported that last year's budget deficit would be more than $1 trillion, making it the fourth year in a row with a deficit that high. Now, in a statement, Congressman Heck called the debt news, quote, an ominous milestone and, quote, yet another reminder of the dire fiscal straits our country is facing and the need for serious solutions to getting our deficits under control and reducing the debt. On his website, the congressman calls attention to the CBS News report that said more debt was added from 2009 to 2012 than was added in the previous 8 years, and then he pledged to work to, quote, eliminate the big culture that has gripped Washington. You've stated what you want to see happen. Reduce spending, address causes of government debt, keep banning earmarks, enact a balanced budget. Here's a new question, okay? What in your estimation is going to happen, not only if that doesn't happen, but if the deficit keeps increasing?
Well, I think we're on an unsustainable path, and sooner or later, when we start reaching that point where what we're spending far exceeds even more than what we're taking in now, I think we'll start to see what we're witnessing in some foreign countries like Greece and Portugal, where our economy will be on the verge of collapse. Recently reported that Greece is at over a 25% unemployment rate because of their economy. And so the fact that our debt keeps rising puts a pall of instability and lack of predictability over our economy. And so businesses aren't going to be willing to expand and hire. It strangles the hardworking middle class who are out there looking for a job or hoping to get a pay raise. And so it's not just about balancing the books in Washington. This has real repercussions for people back home.
You know, I was gonna ask about that. What do you say to folks? You've already answered it. Who compare our situation here to the hurting European countries, and if you think that's overboard, clearly you don't. How do you answer people who go, "Come on, we're not Greece"?
Well, but that's just it. I don't think we can say that anymore. I think my response is, well, if we don't make changes now, we are well on the road to becoming Greece. And so we've got to look at what we can do now. And some people say, there's no immediate crisis, and we've got time to address this. But that's been Washington's approach for years, is never take care of a problem today that we can put off for 10. It's time to say we have to tackle this problem now. Our business community needs it. The hardworking folks back home need it. Certainly our government needs it. We have to know that we can start to control our spending and not keep spending more money than we take in.
You've said that a lot of failed policies have contributed to this problem. What in your estimation and knowledge, what's happened on the Hill since you've been here that you can kind of attribute to?
Well, like I said, I mean, it's not just in my time on the Hill, and certainly not just under this administration. I mean, this has been a problem that's gone on for over a decade of increased spending. And so certainly, whether it was a bad policy or not, the cost of waging war in two countries over the last decade has certainly added to our debt. When we looked at the stimulus bill that was passed in 2009, which added almost $900 billion in spending, which really didn't result in much in the way of trying to get our economy back on track and create long-term jobs, that was money we spent that we didn't have. And so, look, there are critical projects like infrastructure and transportation that need to be funded. There are critical safety net programs that we need to continue. We have the Defense Department that's responsible for securing our nation that we have to make sure is funded. But there are ways that we can go in and surgically decrease spending in areas where there's fraud, waste, and abuse, in programs that are underperforming or not living up to their expectations, that we can consolidate. And we can start, again, by, I believe, resetting our baseline to the pre-stimulus spending of 2008.
You've called the debt, quote, a reminder of dire fiscal straits our country is facing. You're one voice. How do you get folks to join your vision of fixing the problem?
Well, again, I think the House has been focused. As I said, we've passed two budgets, one in each of the last 2 years, that try to address this problem over the long term. Certainly when I'm back home, I talk about it at every opportunity. We do it through telephone town halls from Washington or live town halls back at home. We push this message out through our social messaging, and we get a great response from folks that understand this.
How do folks in one chamber communicate with the other? In fact, I mean, you've got buddies in the Senate, okay? How do you say, come on, guys?
Well, certainly within the Nevada delegation, we talk amongst ourselves and say, look, we've got to try to move something forward. And so whether I'm talking to Senator Heller or Senator Reed, we do it one-on-one in talking to each other and saying, what can we do that will try to get this problem under control and will help the folks back home?
And when we come in next, what does all this mean to the Nevada economy and to you? That's just ahead.
Every day, thousands of people in northern Nevada don't get enough to eat. 1 out of 5 children in northern Nevada go to bed hungry every night. But you can do something about it. Catholic Community Services of Northern Nevada has been providing help and creating hope in our community for more than 65 years. By donating food, time, or money, you can make a difference in a hungry person's life. When you make your generous donation to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, you're helping to fight the scourge of hunger in northern Nevada. In these tough economic times, now more than ever, we need to help those less fortunate. To find out how you can donate to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, call, click, or stop by, and together we can end hunger in northern Nevada.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
This girl is very pretty. It's inciting feelings of jealousy in me. We should pick on her.
I'm insecure about some things, so I think we should put some me stuff on here. Maybe even some lies, too.
Yeah.
I just want to be accepted by you both. So I'm going to send this to my friends so they think I'm cool.
Kids bully for all kinds of reasons. None of them are good. Find ways to get involved at flipthescriptnow.org.
How will new energy technology make our lives better? Will geothermal, wind, and solar energy be a bigger part of our future? Yes. And soon it will all be in our backyard. Learn more at nvenergy.com.
Welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of fiscal responsibility. We've been visiting with a guy who that's very important to. His name is Nevada U.S. Congressman Joe Heck. Uncertainty. That's my guess one-word answer to what all this budget, debt, and deficit news is causing in the minds and lives of Nevadans and Nevada businesses. And he says it's why on his the job page of his website that our economy is not recovered. He says this uncertainty, quote, is felt by families and job creators across Nevada that it, quote, stems from the federal government's spending, leading families to wonder if their taxes will go up to pay for Washington's misadventures. And specifically regarding employment, he says, quote, uncertainty stems from government's overly burdensome regulations, leading businesses to wonder if they will be forced to spend more money complying with regulations instead of hiring new workers. During the last Congress, he convened an advisory council composed of entrepreneurs, lenders, and labor, what he called the elements that constitute small business, to ask what the federal government can do to help improve the economy. And he said he would base much of his job creation efforts here based on their suggestions. Let's start with this. What'd you learn from that Small Business Council?
Well, certainly there are multiple factors that are continuing to cause Nevada to have the highest unemployment rate in the nation. Certainly being an economy that's dependent upon tourism, travel, and hospitality, when the rest of the nation is hurting, there are many fewer folks that are willing to take the opportunity to come on vacation in Southern Nevada or throughout the state, and so that hurts our economy even more. They certainly talked about the unpredictability about tax structure. Now, we put that to rest on January 1st when we passed the fiscal cliff package that locked in tax rates across the board and kept taxes low for 98% of all Nevadans. And there were also other provisions in that bill that were important to Nevada, like being able to continue to deduct sales tax, being able to continue the mortgage debt forgiveness, locking in a lower estate tax. So those things were important, and that'll provide some predictability, which hopefully will be helpful. The next thing is the regulatory burden. And when we talk about that, the one that most businesses refer to is still the healthcare reform law. There's still a great unknown about the impact to their bottom line when the law is fully implemented over the next year. And so they still are holding back a little bit, not knowing how they're going to deal with some of the provisions within the law and how that's going to impact their bottom line, especially in small margin businesses like grocery stores, convenience stores, and restaurants.
You've said many times on my show that job creation and turning around the Nevada economy is your top priority here, but you've expressed some frustration about how slowly that improvement come, and you have put some of the blame on what's going on in the federal government.
Sure. Well, certainly with the inability to address these concerns, the inability or coming down to the wire to get the tax package passed was a big wet blanket on economic growth. Again, the inability to predict what the regulatory burdens are going to be. And we've tried to answer that with legislation that's targeted to specific issues, both nationally and back in Southern Nevada. For instance, we just reintroduced the Three Kids Mine Bill, which will help with economic development in the city of Henderson by reclaiming an old mine site and allowing a public-private partnership to clean it up, redevelop it, economic impact at no cost to the taxpayer. We've looked at bills that help rein in excessive government regulation, which we supported in the last Congress, which will be reintroduced this Congress. And again, try to give businesses and those hardworking middle-class families some predictability as to what their future burdens are going to be based on how much money the federal government is spending.
I think we can agree things are better, but not great. And you've said the recent job report was, quote, nothing to celebrate. You said adding 155,000 jobs to the economy was far short of the monthly needed.
Sure. Well, most economists are saying that we need to add about 250,000 jobs per month just to start to make a real dent in our unemployment and try to get back to the historical levels of a 5% unemployment rate. And so when we continue to come in under that number, and again, one of the reasons why that number decreases is not because people are finding jobs, but unemployed are stopping their search for a job. And so it's not necessarily because people are getting back into the job market, there's just less people looking for jobs.
As we close out this segment, what do you have planned for this Congress, other stuff for boosting the economy?
Well, again, we're going to look at all the legislation that we introduced last year that will hopefully reintroduce many of those pieces again this year. Not just the Three Kids Mine Bill, but we have other pieces of legislation currently in the pipeline that'll help answer some of the questions about the healthcare reform law. Again, trying to provide predictability and stability, reining in excessive regulation. So we have things that will address both Nevada-specific items as well as the strategic or more global issues that the nation faces to try to get this economy back on track and put our country back on a firm fiscal footing.
Well, I hope you'll share that news here first when you bring it to the media. When just right ahead is going to be our mailbag segment. It's coming up next.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
are a million places you'd never consider texting. So why would you do it while driving? Leave risky driving to the professionals. Stop the texts, and together we can stop the wrecks.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
We're back with our closing segment of Eye on Washington. It is our mailbag segment. In this segment, we tell you about an issue the congressional mailbag page at Joyce Communications website has been getting a lot of correspondence about. We read one of your letters on the air, and we invite our guests to respond to you right here. Congressman, you've been getting some letters on energy, and I have one from Bartholomew of North Las Vegas. He says, "Dear Congressman Heck, has there been any forward movement on the Keystone XL pipeline project and bringing crude oil from Canada to U.S. refineries? Could your office provide an update on where the project stands and a path forward?" What do you say to Bartholomew?
That's a great question, because it was certainly an area that we were pushing for in the last Congress to get that pipeline approved because of the economic impact it would have, not just throughout the Midwest, but nationally, which would be a trickle effect down to us. So the latest is that there was one area of the pipeline that was running through Nebraska that was causing concerns, environmental concerns. Nebraska has recently signed off on a rerouting of that particular piece of the pipeline. So the pipeline is ready for approval. It's now between the State Department and the President to sign off on the approval to start construction. But all the questions about the pipeline itself have been answered. All the states are on board. And so now it's up to the State Department and the President to approve it so we can start construction.
Optimistic, 50-50?
I hope so. I mean, I think it's, there's about 10 to 15,000 direct jobs that pipeline will create. A lot in the construction industry, which means while not directly in Nevada, it'll give our out-of-work construction workers an opportunity to go work somewhere. And there's estimated up to 100,000 collateral jobs that pipeline will create. So it's an important piece of legislation. I hope the President will approve it.
Okay. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
You can send a letter to one of Nevada's senators or House members. Just go to our website, joycecommunications.com, and check out more federal issues that impact Nevada while you are there. Be sure to like us on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter. Thanks for joining us today on Eye on Washington. I'm Marilee Joyce in Washington, D.C. Have a good day.